Good day, C3 parents, and welcome to another installment of Parenting Chats. I'm your host, Karien and Pitout, and joining me today is Alexa. She's a very close friend of mine. Please quickly say hello, Alexa.
Good morning, hello, good evening, whenever you're watching.
Good morning. So Alexa is a social worker, she's a mom first, and we've actually met each other on gentle parenting or non-punitive parenting groups. And as we journeyed together, we grew together and we got to know each other. And she's got a huge passion for a lot of things. She's part of an organization called Arise Family. We will link some information down below so that you can donate, so you can contribute. Go look at what Arise does. They actually work in a community that is impoverished, and the changes that they make there is incredible. I'll give Alexa an opportunity to share with you just a little bit of what Arise does before we actually dive into our parenting chat. Alexa.
Cool, thanks, Karien. Oh, I'm so excited about talking about Arise that I need to make sure we don't take too much time about Arise. So Arise is all about believing that every child belongs in a thriving family, and we want to see all families thrive, regardless of how they're formed. So we do that in 3 ways. First is we have our family strengthening programs, which we were running in schools, but we're no longer running in schools. So we've had to change those models. We have a family forum, which is a family, like a parenting forum that meets twice a week. Again, we're going to be changing that as we get to level 3 regulations so that we can continue supporting families. And so that's in our family center. And there we also work with families. So if people come to us, they come through the courts, they come through word of mouth, they come through schools. If they have family issues and family hiccups within the family system, we work with that. If it's a substance abuse issue that needs to be resolved before we can do the family work, then we partner with organizations to see how we can do that. So that's our family center. And that's all about what do we do to strengthen families. So that happens within our organization, but also we've been running online courses, which Karien is welcome to share about it as well, which dovetails quite nicely actually with your work. Then we do adoption support and education. So we are not, please hear me, we are not an adoption agency, but we do a lot of psychoeducation, support, referral, partnering, and how do we help families form through adoption thrive? So we know in an ideal world, children wouldn't need to be adopted. But we don't live in the stream ideal world. So how do we help children thrive? How do we help parents thrive so that children can thrive in the space? And how do we honor the whole adoption constellation or triad? And that's part of the work that I'm responsible for at Arise and I'm deeply passionate about. And then the other part of the work we do is a little bit of what I'm doing today as a friend, but also what we do professionally is guest speaking, training and consulting. And Karien's been on some of our trainings. They are remarkable. They're phenomenal. We've managed to impact, we worked out over 2,000 families through those trainings that we offered nationally last year, looking at things like emotional literacy, looking at how to work with self-esteem with girls. Our programs are all about strengthening families. And so we recognize that that has a whole lot of different work in it. It's managing emotions. It's how to talk to kids through hard stuff. It's understanding sadness, anxiety, and depression. It's all of those things. So how do we equip people to do that better? And then currently, obviously, with the COVID crisis, within our family center program, we're looking at what does relief look like. So how do we support parents who want to continue the education process? How do we support parents with yesterday and on, where are we now? Today's Wednesday, on Monday and Tuesday, we were involved in food distribution, but we're not just handing out food, we're checking in with the families we have active relationships with. So we go to their homes and we go and see what's going on. And that's been remarkable because it's meant that we've managed connection, we've maintained relationship, and as a community, we managed to actually say to people, we're still present. In the midst of this physical distancing, we're physically distancing, but we're socially still together. So that's pretty much quick synopsis of what we do. There's lots more. Please go look at our website, our Facebook page, our Instagram page. Karien's got the details. She's going to post them. Thanks, Karien, for meeting me. Yeah.
Okay. So on the topic of adoption, you actually are actually equipped on an additional level. You're not just someone that fly by night. I'm interested in this topic, so I'm going to talk to people about it. You yourself, your family is a family that adopted kids. Please tell me more about.
We grew through adoption is what we say. So we say that we grew through adoption. We didn't adopt kids. We grew our family through adoption. Yes. And I think, sorry.
I said yes.
No, it's fine. I just I'm a bit like, let's use our language because words matter in the space. And Karien has been very open with me. I want to say this before. I'm saying, Alexa, how do we phrase this so it's not so clumsy? So this is part of my role is like, how do we phrase this so that we're honoring parents, children, but also birth families in the story as we tell the stories. And so part of, as we go into this conversation around adoption today, I just am very clear, I don't discuss my children's stories. We don't discuss our children's private stories. Those are theirs to share when they're older and when they choose to, which I think is true for our children, whether they're adopted or not, actually. We need to be honoring the humanity and the dignity of small people. And as parents, we sometimes don't always get that right. So when I was in my 20s, I remember sitting around with a group of friends and talking about how they wanted to grow their families. And the one friend was like, yeah, she doesn't mind. She'd like to have biological children, but she doesn't mind if she marries someone with children. Another friend was very clear that she wanted her own children. She wasn't so keen about, like, and I remember just saying, like, children are children. Like, you choose to love them. It doesn't matter how they come to you. Like, love is a choice, you know? If you're a married person or in a significant relationship, you will know love is a choice, because some days are easier than others to be loving and kind towards our partners, but still we commit to being loving. And the same is true for parenting, actually. Like, some days are easier than others. So that's been my heart from the start. And before we grew my family, I sat in spaces where I worked with children waiting in children's homes, and I got to partner and journey with parents post-adoption. So this really has been part of I believe children belong in families. I don't think all families should be adopting, but I believe all children should be in family. Because I even wrote a report for a child I'd worked with, and I said, this child, there's no point in him coming to play therapy. I'm a social worker with a play therapy's background. What he needs to learn, he's only going to learn in a solid, committed relationship and family. And the beautiful part of that story is that particular child was actually adopted by a friend of mine, like, that I didn't know was going to be adopting. So there's this whole, you can call it what you like, serendipity, whatever. Like, there was this weird, for them, it was a God moment of like how all these weird threads had woven together. And I've been privileged enough to hear the stuff that I wrote in that report. He can only learn through family. He did learn through his family. And I wept when she told me some of the stuff that had been going on, like 7 or 8 years later. And not in dishonoring him, but just, she told me a story randomly and I started crying because I remembered the report. So for us, before we got married, I said to my husband that, like, yeah, if you want to date me, you need to know something. This is how I would like to grow my family. And he went, oh, cool, because me too. And so it was quite easy to get to that decision. It wasn't rocket science. He felt like he wanted to try for biological children first. He felt like, you know, we were talking about having a blended family of biological as well as children through adoption. And I never felt like that. Like, I had to go for therapy to talk about the possibility of being pregnant, because rightly, like, it's not a right or wrong thing. I just didn't have a great desire to be pregnant. So then I got to the point of, okay, I'll choose this, and then got really mad. If you listen to this as a believer, I do think God is bigger than my anger, and he's big enough to hold my anger. Got really angry because I had a blighted open pregnancy, which was quite traumatic, and then we did have one miscarriage. But what happened in the miscarriage is my husband then looked at me and he said, you know what, we actually don't need this. I've just realized that being a father is a choice you make. It's a thing that you do in your heart. Because there are a lot of men out there who have fathered babies, but they're not daddies and they're not fathers. And so I looked at him and was like, why couldn't you have told me this before I went through all of this other stuff? Because, you know, like, I thought I was making this loving decision, like, and I would have loved this baby. If we had had a baby biologically, I would have loved them. But the reality is, in my head, my children were always going to come to me through children whose first mothers, for whatever reason, couldn't look after them. And in South Africa, we do need to talk about the fact that a lot of that's poverty driven, and our adoption stats in South Africa and profiles look like they do because of poverty, and poverty in our country is still racialized. Whether we want to accept that or not, it's racialized. And so that's how we got to the point of adoption. Is we had this, I always feel like it was my angel baby that dropped in and dropped out, the permission baby. And after that miscarriage, I remember I went into theatre for a DNC and came out because I was working as a play therapist as well. And I said to the guy, I can't be doing this over weeks while I'm working with families and children, because that's not fair on me and it's not fair on the families in terms of my own processing and knowing myself. That was not an option. And I came out of theatre and looked at the nurses and I was like, no, you know, this was God's way of speaking to us and saying it's time. And that doesn't mean that life that we saw a heartbeat and then the baby didn't stay with us didn't matter. It doesn't mean that at all. Like, I had to go through a lot of grief around that and self-reproach and working stuff out. But what it does mean is, because we spoke to the guy and he was like, Alexa, you feel pregnant. It's not, this is normal. Like, I think miscarriage has been pathologized, but actually for many people, miscarriages, they're normal and we don't talk about this. And so we started our process just after that. And then I met my first child almost exactly 9 months later. But I'd been in therapy around not wanting to be pregnant. So it was helpful because I did have I had someone who could write a report saying, actually, Alexa's heart has always been this.
It is an incredible
this was just
journey
part of the journey
that
to
you
get
as a
to
family
there
have been on.
as a family unit. So that's kind of how we got there.
It was actually, you actually answered
that was a very long,
I
convoluted
previously
story,
had,
but it's got a lot in it.
About I myself have PCOS, and I was literally diagnosed sterile at the age of 22. And so it's a whole different journey how we actually ended up having biological kids, because we actually did go to adoption agencies. And the first thing they asked is they need medical proof that we can't, conceive on our own. And I actually wanted to know, and then now you've answered the question of,
yeah, I can conceive
through that loophole.
I can conceive on my own. Yeah, which has other interesting implications in terms of your intimacy life when you're allergic to latex, let's be honest. Because I always felt like that girl that was always scared of falling pregnant, because it was something that, it's just not something I ever really, I look at my cousin when she's pregnant. I think she's one of the most beautiful pregnant women I've ever seen. She might not feel that way, and if she ever sees this, I need her to know, I look at you and I just think you're so beautiful. And so there's as a mom, adoptive mothers and how society responds is slightly different. There's a little bit of grief because we're not celebrated in quite the same way.
No,
some ways it's nice because no one's poking and prodding my stomach in the supermarket, so, and saying, oh, how far are you? And it's like, I have a food baby growing. No one's going to ask me that. But there is a difference in how society responds and how to ask, and even the awkwardness, and you and I have been around each other in these spaces, but even though how do we say this properly stuff, that is different. Not that I think all questions posed to pregnant moms and expectant moms are appropriate, but this just levels up slightly. So in terms of inappropriate things that may or may not be said,
they don't just violate the mother's space; they violate the child's space and being, and
the first family space, the whole adoption constellation space, and I think birth mothers have a right, or birth families have a right to privacy and confidentiality. And when people start oversharing parts of that story, not only are we telling stuff that maybe our children don't want people to know, but we're also telling stuff that is about someone else's story. Whether we have a relationship with that part of the constellation or not, that's their story. And so I'm always like, if, my children's birth family were in the room, would I randomly tell the stuff in front of them? The answer is no, then I don't tell the story. Feels like an easy boundary for me.
It is about respecting other people's story, and it's a conversation that we often have, especially with me being in the field that I am. Someone joked and said they don't hear enough about my children, so a lot of people doubt that I do have them. And
she's got children.
And my response is always, one day when my children can give informed consent and proper informed consent, which means in their older teenage years, I'm willing to share them. But for now, their story is their story. And I was honored. My mother-in-law honored. She's such an example for me for what it means to be a peaceful and kind parent. I grew up in a household that did not really respect anybody's story, and they will know someone 10 or 20 minutes. And if you really like that person, they will share your most embarrassing story with that person. And so I met my mother-in-law for the first time, and I actually sat down with her, and I said to her, so tell me about, Mark, how was he as a child? And she looked at me and she's like, well, he was a child. And that was her response. And I just sat there like, but I want dirt, I want to, and she's like, well, it's his story to tell. And that's how she had, and I was flabbergasted. I was completely thrown for a loop because I don't come from a family or a background where that kind of respect was ever given. And it basically boiled down that she allowed him to share with me the moments in his childhood that he either, feels a bit embarrassed about or that he's proud of, without outside influence telling him what he has to share and what he doesn't have. And it was such an authentic getting to know him, where you don't have that extra dirt to like.
So she protected him in the process.
Absolutely. And that kind of that to me was the first step and realizing, but you know what, there is a different way to raise children than how I was raised. So every time that you talk about honoring a child's story, it just brings me back to, well, I had firsthand roadblock experience, and I wasn't angry, I wasn't upset, I was a bit flabbergasted, you know, like a bit confused, but
What?
otherwise it was like, that is so cool. That is what I want to give my kids. So that's one of the reasons I also don't really share a lot about my kids, and especially I think it is okay to sometimes it's okay to share their victories, like we would share it with family and all of that, but never their low moments.
No, well, I think that's, you can affirm your children. Children love hearing when we're proud of them or when we're affirming, and not just to them, but when we're telling other people what we're proud of with them. Yeah. Like, they love that. So I've got a lovely concrete example about boundaries is with COVID going on, obviously, like, well, we live in different cities, so this chat was never going to be in person right now anyway. But we organized 2 play dates for my oldest the other day, like Zoom dates. And I'm friends with both moms. And I walked into the room and I said, oh, we nicknamed, my son's nickname is Batman. I said, Batman, like, can I, because, you know, even my mic, I'm sure, I don't know if anyone noticed, but there we go. But I said to him, oh, can I say hello to so-and-so quickly? And he goes, no, Mom, this is my space. You got to organize your own Zoom play date. And I was like, that's a boundary. And it was funny, but also I was super proud of him, because actually, before I sat down to you, I was like, Mom's going into a meeting now, a Zoom meeting. Like, I need you guys to respect the line. And that's exactly what he did. And so for me, that was a victory, because I was like, he knows where the line is. Like, does he test and push sometimes? Of course, he's a child. That's what he's supposed to do. You know, he's healthy and normal. But it was just so funny when he looked at me and he was, you organize your own Zoom date. Like, what is wrong with you? There are boundaries. And I was like, got it. I've been schooled, out I go.
That mirror, the moment they start giving you back what you
exactly.
give them, sometimes it's like a real warm fuzzy feeling, and the other times it's like, ooh, I need to double check.
Ooh, I sound like that. Exactly.
Thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate all the input that you give. I love you a lot, my friend, in any way. So I'm very fortunate that I have you as my friend. Every now and again, I know that I go look up some of the things that you post. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how we do things again. So it's awesome being in a friendship where we support each other and we actually journey together. Please stay safe. And continue the amazing work that you do at the Rise team and what you're doing for other families and helping people move forward through life. Once again, people, down below you will get information about a Rise family. Go support them, help them. They are currently also in the COVID drive, raising funds for food drives and for electricity and for so many ways to help the community being impacted, almost receiving not just the brunt of the lockdown, but or have been receiving the brunt of the economic disparities that we are experiencing in our country. So please go support them, and please comment down below. Let us know what part of the conversation you joined. Would you like us to have another conversation? Where would you like us to expand, especially on the families that is looking at adoption and or going through the adoption process? If you want to reach out to Alexa, once again, you can contact a Rise family. She will be able to direct you in the direction in your province, or otherwise within the Cape region, Rise itself will help you through some awesome seminars and courses. Thank you. Yes, add. Yes.
The other thing is also we have an Arise family page on Facebook. And so if you go and join that page, you'll see what's going on. There's some exciting stuff happening. If you're considering adoption, if you are a family formed through adoption, the one spin-off from COVID is that we're going national with how we're presenting our support options. So we don't need to be in your city now, because we just need to be behind a screen. So go and have a look at what's going on there. There's exciting news that will happen in the next 2 weeks. So I know there's different forums around adoption on Facebook already. There's lots of great groups, but go and join ours, because we're another, if you want another voice, go and join ours. And now you've met me. I'm the Adoption Support and Education Manager for Rise. So go and have a look at what that is about, and then see, and yeah, look at our social media, like us, follow us.
Go, guys. All right. And then if you like what we're doing at See-Through Parenting, remember to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, comment down below, and we'll see you in the next installment. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thanks, Karien.
Pleasure.